Ah, greetings, B-movie aficionados.
All right, hello, welcome to Couple of Flicks. I'm Tristan.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Zach.
Excellent. So before we get started, have either of you seen anything lately that you want to talk about?
I saw Uncut Gems.
Nice.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was really good.
Yeah. I love that movie.
Yeah. God, I can't believe it. I should have gotten some Oscar noms. I feel.
Know. It at least one, you know, like, or, I mean, so Adam Sandler said something about like how if he doesn't get an Oscar for the film, he was gonna make a really bad movie on purpose.
I hope he does.
Yeah. Oh, he should. Yeah, honestly, he should make that sequel to Jack and Jill, you know, that everybody's clamoring for. So.
Oh.
Actually, just saw on Facebook, Adam Sandler movies were ranked from worst to best. They had Ridiculous Six was the worst apparently, and then Jack and Jill.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen either of them, so.
Me neither.
Well, I did see Jack and Jill, but I'm not going to talk about that one. I don't want to. But that one, usually Jack and Jill, that one is usually ranked down there with like, I mean, I know a lot of people didn't like Ridiculous Six, and then I guess apparently Mr. Deeds is a really unpopular one as well. And then That's My Boy, which I never saw. So
I liked That's My Boy.
Yeah, I have no idea like what it's even about. So, but I don't think I know anybody who's seen that actually, but you know, besides you, of course. But then again, I don't really know anybody who's seen Jack and Jill besides me. So
Yeah, I have not seen that one.
I think even his fans avoided that one.
Yeah.
But no, Uncut Gems though. I mean, there was some depth there. There was some like, I mean, I felt like as an actor, he showed like pretty considerable like range playing a character like that. You know, who's not necessarily the easiest kind of character to play, you know, just because like he's a pretty flawed character. But Adam Sandler, he kind of excels in playing really screwed up characters. So it ends up kind of like working for him, and he does the best that he can with it, you know. Yeah. So
he did a good job.
Yeah. Did you see anything?
I saw The Lighthouse.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah. Pretty trippy.
Yeah. And another trippy one I saw, Midsummer.
Oh my gosh. No. Yeah. Midsummer's pretty screwed up.
Yeah. Both really good though.
Yeah, both of those would be the kind of movie that like once you see those, like those would be the types of movies that would actually be like worthy of like actual like discussion at length. I feel like, you know, just because like both those films, like I don't know, there's a lot I want to say about those, but so I was talking to somebody about Midsummer today actually, and they said that the biggest problem they had with the movie was that the first shot in the movie is a giant spoiler.
Like trying to remember what it was.
It's like that. It's kind of like a giant mural of just various. Yeah. Okay. And I guess like pretty much everything that happens in the movie like is shown like illustrated on that mural. So I guess so. This friend of mine, they were really pissed that. Like, I don't know, I guess they have really good observation skills or something like that, but they were like, everything that they showed at the beginning just ended up happening. I don't know what the point of it was. Like, so I guess like, I don't know, for people who haven't seen Midsummer, apparently like the first shot I mean, I don't know. I've only seen the movie once, so I don't really remember very well. But apparently, there's a lot of spoilers at the beginning in the very first shot. So,
Damn.
yeah. So you might want to cover your eyes. Did either of you see anything else, or?
Nothing that comes to mind.
Yeah, those are the two big things for me.
Okay. Well, I saw The Two Popes, which was pretty good. I had some personal qualms with like some of the directing decisions, but it was a good movie. Pretty well acted. I don't know if I'd watch it again though. And then I saw Little Women, which I'm trying to see all the films that got nominated for Best Picture, you know, which there's a couple that I know I'm probably not going to be able to see before the ceremony. Like I highly doubt I'm going to get to be able to see Ford versus Ferrari, for example. But yeah, I saw Little Women and I like that one as well. But I don't know. It wasn't really. I mean, I've seen an adaptation of that same story like three or four other times now, and so like by this point, I'm kind of tired of that story. So I wasn't really crazy about it, but I still liked it. You know, the director Greta Gerwig, who did Lady Bird, like I personally preferred Lady Bird as a film, but Little Women, I guess if that's your kind of movie, you know, about this particular person who, you know, she publishes a book or tries to, and I don't know, it's fine. And then last night I saw 1917, which was also pretty good. But like as a war film, I personally preferred Dunkirk. Like I can see why a lot of people liked 1917 because it was really well made and well shot. You know, it's shot as if it's all in like one take, you know, which is kind of interesting for a war film. Yeah. Which it isn't actually one take, but it's shot and edited in a very careful way to make it look like it is. And I thought it was pretty good. You know, I thought it was well made, but I don't think I would watch it again. Just yeah. And as for like the technique, like I thought it worked pretty well for the most part, but then there were some scenes where it kind of felt like I was watching a video game or something, where it was just kind of like where you're kind of following these characters like behind their heads.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know, going and killing people and stuff like that. And like, I don't necessarily mind films with like really long takes of people like following things that movie Elephant is kind of like that. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit, just because there were like a lot of really long sequences of just following people, you know. And for the most part, it was pretty cool, but there were times kind of where I was like kind of getting tired of it. So, but overall, it was still a good movie. Anyway, that's about all I have to say, really, off the top of my head. So.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth seeing for the technique. I think I honestly I wasn't really in the mood for it when I watched it, so I think like I don't know, I probably should give that another chance at some point. But I'm typically not the type of person who rewatches war films again and again. You know, I'm more the kind of person who's like, once I've seen it like once, I don't need to watch it again. You know.
Yeah.
But anyway. So, so let's get started. So the film that I chose for this episode was a movie called The Vagrant. And the reason I chose it is because when I was younger, I was at the video store, and I think it must have been the screener tape. Because I don't know if you guys remember, in rental stores they had like the screener tapes that I guess the people who work there would usually get for free to just kind of watch, like, which they tended to be movies that like either were going to come or they ran out of stock or they hadn't printed them yet or whatever. So people got like screener tapes, which would always have like the copyright words on them and stuff. But anyway, so I'm pretty sure it must have been like a screener tape of The Vagrant, and the cover was just like this gross picture of this guy whose eye was all messed up, and it was so disgusting and horrible looking that I remember looking at that when I was a kid and thinking like, that's a movie I never am going to watch. Like, I never want to see that movie. But then I was looking, like, recently I was looking up like a list of like 90s B movies and stuff, and that was on there, and I was like, oh, The Vagrant, oh man, and I like had a flashback. I was like, whoa, I remember that. And I just was like, oh, I'll just choose it for this show, so I did.
Nice, yeah.
But I don't know, do either of you want to try to describe the plot of this, or should I just I'll just do it.
It's hardly much of a plot. But...
Yeah, there's not a tremendous amount to say. It's pretty much so Bill Paxton's in it, and he plays this gentleman who I'm not quite sure what his issue was. He had some kind of nervous disposition or some kind of issue. I don't know if he was like a victim of like theft or abuse or something like that. But anyway, so this guy who's played by Bill Paxton, he's like a corporate, he works for like a corporate office. So there's some corporate commentary in there, you know, so before Swimming with Sharks was made, which is interesting, and Office Space and stuff like that, you know. But anyway, so he buys a house, even though he can barely afford it. But I got the impression he was trying to make something better of himself, I guess.
Yeah.
So he bought a house, and there's this odd guy, he's like this homeless guy who is the creepy looking guy on the cover, who pretty much, actually it happens before Bill Paxton even shows up. This homeless guy basically just takes residence in this house and kind of comes in and goes like whenever he wants, and steals things and leaves various little things behind, and basically just starts like messing with Bill Paxton. And at some point, eventually, well, actually maybe it wasn't eventually, because it's not really clear how much time takes place over the course of the film, but at some point there's a series of grisly murders, which, you know, seems to be the work of this homeless guy. But Bill Paxton, of course, his character is the one who people sort of start suspecting, and the kind of big question that's up in the air is whether this guy even exists. It's a comedy, apparently.
Yeah.
I frankly found it very disturbing and troubling,
Yeah.
and not very funny at all. But that's just me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a bit of a 90s oddity. Pretty much could have only come out in the early 90s. Pre-Clinton. And yeah. I don't know. What were your thoughts on this one?
Well, it was definitely a weird one. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was different.
Yeah. Was not what I expected. I think my main problem with it is the fact that it even tries to be a comedy in the first place.
yeah. By that.
Yeah. Because it almost makes it seem like we're not really supposed to like Bill Paxton's character, or maybe the thing is, I mean, I guess maybe we are supposed to like him, but he's so pitiful and pathetic that it's really hard to like him. And like the situations, like just that, like the whole situation with this homeless guy just gets worse and worse and worse, and it just keeps building up on, you know, and eventually, you know, like a lot of characters start getting killed off. And Bill Paxton is pretty much, and there's this subplot involving these two detectives who are sort of on Bill Paxton's trail. We don't believe him about this homeless guy, which, I mean, they know that this homeless person exists, because early in the movie, they take him into custody, but then they let him go, and then the guy ends up going back, and Bill Paxton will be sleeping, and he'll wake up, and the homeless guy, for example, will have his hands in his pants, or will be doing something horrible to him. and it's never really quite clear whether it's a dream or whether it's a like reality or a nightmare.
Yep.
And then there's also this whole there's a lot of really strange characters in this film. There's the woman who shows him the house who pretty much assaults him.
Yeah.
And then there's also Bill Paxton's his girlfriend or his wife?
I think it was.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it
I
was.
wasn't sure what was going on there.
Yeah, he referred to her as partner. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was somebody he was going to marry. I don't know. But she knows about the existence of this homeless guy, and she even invites him in at one point.
Gives him a sandwich.
Yeah, because he's homeless, and it's like, oh, poor man. And then Bill Paxton shows up and sees this guy sitting at his table, and eventually it becomes a battle, like a battle of wits. And I mean, I guess now we'll get into spoiler territory. It turns out that this homeless guy actually is responsible for these killings, and Bill Paxton eventually actually leaves the house. Well, actually, he kind of has to leave because the house totally gets destroyed in the process of him trying to boot this guy out. And he takes residence in another location. He actually ends up living under the same roof as people who already, somebody who has like he had a dog, the guy who he lives with. And so, of course, something horrible has to happen to the dog. Which really bummed me out. And then eventually it comes down to Bill Paxton and this homeless fellow, which I'm sorry I keep referring to him as the homeless guy, but he doesn't really have a name. I mean, I guess I could call him the Vagrant, but that's what Bill Paxton's character does throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
So, and he kind of uses it as an insult, so it's like doesn't really feel right calling him that, you know. But the guy, I mean, obviously, you know, you're not supposed to feel sorry for the homeless guy though, because he's a serial killer who's cutting up women and stuffing it in Bill Paxton's fridge, you know. But anyway, so basically, yeah. So it comes down to Bill Paxton and this guy, and the police show up. The police, one of them I think gets slaughtered, and it kind of just turns into a gory horror movie, like at the end when and of course you have the big moment where the killer finally gets, you know, cut down, and it's supposed to be sort of like a triumphant moment for Bill Paxton. It's supposed to be like, oh, now you're taking initiative. Now you're becoming your own person and fighting back against the oppressive system, which it's not really clear what the oppressive system is. I mean, I guess it's his corporate job, but it's not like that really ends up going anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much it. I mean, it's as weird as it sounds. Actually, it's weirder because like
Yeah.
somewhat episodic. And yeah, definitely an odd one. I can't really say I enjoyed it personally, but I certainly found it different, and I certainly found it interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Did you guys notice he like never addressed him directly? He never said anything to him.
Yeah.
He didn't
I didn't-
even say like, "Hey, get the fuck out of my house." He just like kind of ignored him and walked away, and then called the police.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
I did notice that, and that's exactly why I thought that was done on purpose, and that was the reason I thought that it was gonna turn out that Bill Paxton was the killer the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then when it turned out it wasn't, it just came across as sort of like an odd artistic choice or script choice, like
Just made it even weirder.
yeah, because then it was almost like Bill Paxton's character wasn't even acknowledging this guy directly, like as a problem itself, you know. Like it makes you wonder, like what if he had just told the guy to leave and was polite about it, like, could you please leave my house, can you please stop you know, leaving shit everywhere or doing whatever it is you're doing, like,
Yeah.
Yep.
you know. But instead he kind of just attacks him overreacts, makes a lot of weird noises, and flees, and that's about it. I mean,
Yep. Yeah, I wasn't sure if he was real or not for most of the movie.
yeah, I guess it's supposed to be a mystery until the end, but it was an odd way to handle it, though. Maybe the film was trying to say something about Bill Paxton's character, and that sort of, like, the fact that he felt like he was, like, above this person or was superior or something, that he wouldn't even talk to him or something. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to try to think too deeply into The Vagrant, but
Right. Wasn't that much to it.
it doesn't seem like a movie that one should think too much about.
Yeah.
I don't know. What were your thoughts?
It's all right. I mean, weird as hell. Like, I had no idea what was going on for most of it. Just, I liked he decked out his house. His first house. Made it all super high tech
Yeah.
security.
There were some kind of surreal little touches here and there. There was sort of a motif involving the drain and dripping, which
I didn't understand that at all.
I think that was supposed to be more about Bill Paxton's character's, like, obsessiveness, like how, like, even owning a home that doesn't necessarily have anything wrong with it, he's going to find, like, some kind of issue to sort of hyper focus on. And in this case, it's this leaky drain that's creating a rust spot in the sink. But, like, the film dwells on it a lot.
Yeah, like, it happens every time the vagrant starts showing up.
Yeah.
Something. So I didn't really get it.
Yeah, it was just kind of a really weird, like, ghostly quality.
Yeah, because it happened right at the end too.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not really
His
clear.
new house, right?
It's not really clear what it's meant to mean, but yeah, that was interesting though that it kind of concluded that way too. But I mean, it was a pretty decently made movie. I just kind of wish it hadn't been a comedy ultimately. I think if it had just been like a straight up horror movie and had kind of explored how creepy a situation like that would be, perhaps somebody constantly breaking into your home in the middle of the night and, using your bathroom or doing their laundry or doing something messed up, or just even stealing your stuff. I mean, I can imagine a pretty horrific movie being made out of that. And I kind of feel like, in a way, this film was that way, but I didn't feel connected to the main character at all. And so I wasn't really that bothered when people started kind of going after him and targeting him, because there were a lot of things he could have done. There were a lot of steps he could have taken to prevent this situation from escalating. And maybe he was just too fearful to do it. I don't know, but I think maybe that was supposed to be the joke. It was a strange movie. I didn't really get it. I guess I'm glad I watched it. I don't know if I would ever watch it again, but it's I'd never heard of it, and it's another Bill Paxton movie that I can check off my list. So
there you go.
There's plenty of films of his that I haven't seen yet. And now that he's passed away, I may as well watch them all. So
Yep.
Go.
What's your rating?
I'd say 2, honestly. I didn't really enjoy it very much. And maybe like in 10 years or so, I'll give it another shot out of curiosity, because I don't know. I got to admit, like, a few days after watching it, like, I did kind of start thinking about it again. And in hindsight, it's a movie that in hindsight, it feels like a better movie than when you're actually watching it. Like, the experience of watching it, I didn't really like very much. But thinking back on it, I think I respected what it was trying to do. I just didn't really respect the end result all that much. So.
Yeah, I'll give it like a 1 probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't all that entertained by it. Just weirded out more.
Yeah, I gave it a 3.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think because it was a comedy, but it should have been a horror movie.
Yeah.
Made it a little more creepy to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the vibe of that. I mean, the story was just okay, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting point. I mean, there are some movies that the fact that they're comedies kind of in a way makes them even more horrific. Like there was that Dan Aykroyd movie, you know, the one where he plays the judge, where he's got like the penis nose.
oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it has Tupac in it and Digital Underground.
Really?
Which I know that's kind of a random, but that's a comedy.
Yeah,
What was that?
I was trying to remember what it's called because people have been talking about it lately.
Yeah. What was that? Well, but that's a comedy. That's considered a comedy. But the fact that it's a comedy actually, to me, made it a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like Nothing But Trouble, I think it's called.
I think
That
so.
sounds like the
That
right.
sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I know of the movie you're talking about.
Yeah, it has a title like that. I think it's Nothing But Trouble. Or it's either that or like Hijinks Ensue or like
Yeah, it's nothing.
I don't know. Nothing But Trouble. Okay, yeah. That's a movie that's another movie that I didn't really like very much, kind of for the same reason that I didn't like this. But you know what you say though, I kind of am starting to realize like why movies like that tend to kind of the vibe of them tends to throw me off. But I think it's cool that it kind of resonated with you though. So
Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
what'd you think of Bill Paxton's performance in it?
It was okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Not his best, but he
Yeah.
definitely he went for it for sure.
yeah.
I mean, he ramped up the wackiness. So and I think it recently got digitally, like I think it recently got like re-released or released on like Blu-ray. Like cuz I guess there's enough of a following that people like were excited about a digital restoration. But yeah.
I'll probably buy it eventually then.
Yeah, I might check it out.
My goal is to own every movie we've talked about at some point.
Nice.
It's a good idea. Even Christmas Story 2?
Yeah, if it's low enough price.
Yeah. Speaking of digital movies that need digital restorations, so your choice.
My choice.
Yeah.
Carnosaur.
Yeah.
So this was like Jurassic Park ripoff, I guess, or I don't know. It was based on a book as well, but
Oh.
not a Michael Crichton one.
Oh, interesting.
That's what I remember seeing somewhere. It was also based on a book of some sort.
Came
This
out
would
the
actually
same year as Jurassic Park 2.
Oh, really?
Oh,
93. Yeah.
Yeah.
wow. And actually, now that you mention it, this would actually probably make a pretty good book.
Yeah.
I mean, if it were well written.
Right.
If it weren't well written, it'd be terrible. But anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, go on.
So yeah, I guess it was like it starts off with, I don't know, they're in like some kind of chicken farm of some sort. I don't really know what, like there's scientists studying, I don't know. What I gathered is I guess they were trying to make dinosaurs out of chickens or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, technically birds, well, I mean, we all know that birds are descended from dinosaurs and that I'd say birds actually probably have more in common with dinosaurs than most reptiles do. But that was kind of weird though, because it was because if birds are evolved from dinosaurs, then how would you make them de-evolve?
I don't. I have no idea what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
Just make dinosaurs out of chickens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so yeah, there was these hippie people too that were trying to save the chickens, I guess. I'm assuming.
Yeah,
That's what
animal
they were
rights.
going for.
It's like PETA,
Yeah.
only not quite as evil.
Right. And like, I don't know, like, yeah, first chicken delivery guy, the truck driver got killed, like, pretty much, what, his first couple scenes, he died. And then they were like, I don't know how, but like, the female humans were also having babies of dinosaurs as well.
Oh yeah, that eventually happened. Yeah.
So I don't know where that came from
Yeah,
either.
they impregnate the female humans with dinosaur embryos, I guess, and they are giving birth to dinosaurs.
Yeah, I don't know how or why it was happening.
Yeah, it really didn't make any sense because humans, they don't typically lay eggs,
Yeah.
and it's impossible for them to really do that. So since a dinosaur would have to come from an egg, I mean, humans have eggs, but they don't lay them. But since a dinosaur would have to come from an egg, I don't know. The science didn't really quite click.
No. They were just throwing stuff at the wall and
Yeah.
seeing what stuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved the dinosaurs too are just puppets basically, like
Yeah.
hand puppets so bad.
Especially in the Jeep scene.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
There's like tiny puppets in forced perspective, like oh,
Yeah. It was pretty odd.
and then just blood just gushing all over when they were attacking.
Yeah. Which actually, one thing I did like about this movie was, and you know, Jurassic Park. I mean, I think we can all agree that Jurassic Park is the greatest dinosaur movie of all time,
Yeah.
pretty much. And you know, when Jurassic Park came out, there weren't a lot of dinosaur movies. I mean, Pre-Hysteria, the Moonbeam children's movie came out, I think, the same year as Jurassic Park. And then, if you want to stretch it, like Rawhide Rex, maybe counts as a dinosaur movie. But Jurassic Park, though, one thing that Jurassic Park doesn't really have is it doesn't really explore the messiness of what a dinosaur can do to a creature. You know, if it's a predatory dinosaur, if it's a carnosaur, or a carnivore, I should say. The way it eats, I mean, the way dinosaurs would be probably kind of like probably pretty messy and nasty. It probably wouldn't be super fast and clean and quick like it happens in Jurassic Park. It would probably be long and agonized and horrible because that's the way birds eat. I mean, if you ever see a bird eat a worm, it's probably the most sadistic thing ever that you could ever see. Birds are probably like the most evil predator in the animal kingdom. And that's not to say that I don't love birds. I love birds. I love all animals, but birds, I'd have to say, like, I would hate it, like if I were a worm, that would probably be like the worst way to die ever would be to get eaten by a bird. So, you know.
Yeah. They are brutal.
Yeah. So the kill scenes in this movie were pretty gnarly and nasty and disgusting. You know, guts and bones and everything goes flying everywhere, and it's not clean. And there's a lot of screaming. That people die usually in a very agonized, slow, painful way, and it's not pretty to look at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what they were trying to do. Like, were they were trying to make dinosaurs? Like, that was the whole point of it.
Yeah, but it's not really clear why they're trying to make dinosaurs, other than, I guess, to make weapons. Which there's easier ways to make weapons than to somehow force birds to become dinosaurs. But anyway, oh well.
So yeah, they were getting sick too with some type of illness, I guess all of them were.
Yeah.
But was that them being impregnated too?
I think so. I think it was them going through like the labor, like going through the actual labor process. I mean, the film doesn't really spend. I mean, it spends pretty much no time trying to explain any of the science of it.
No. So
you know,
confused.
yeah, it just goes right for right for the kills and right for everything else. It actually kind of feels like the movie. It like at the it sort of feels like at the beginning of the movie, once it starts, like the story is actually already almost over. Like it kind of feels like the end of a movie that we missed the first 2/3 of.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Nothing was explained at all.
Yeah. And the dinosaurs, like there's no time spent like with any kind of sense of wonder or the magic of science or anything. The dinosaurs are immediately mess and everything. This is basically a slasher movie.
Yeah.
By the way, like it's pretty much a slasher movie but with dinosaurs.
Yep.
So, but unfortunately that also means that it has all the slasher movie cliches in it, which means you got the person who, here's a noise and goes to check, and of course they get killed. You have, the sex scenes and all the, I mean, pretty much all the characters you expect to have get killed.
Mm-hmm.
Included, and actually pretty much everybody dies in this movie now that I think about it. All the important characters anyway, like all the characters that are even like, that do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote that down. Yeah, everyone died basically.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that at the end.
Yeah.
I love that ending. Best ending ever. That was the best way the movie could have ended.
Yeah.
Just, basically just a giant FU to the human race.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my favorite kind of monster movies. They're the kind that make it very clear that the human race is just not worth, living, basically.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a shame that it ends up being other because it's not just dinosaurs that are killing people. By the end of it, you have the folks that are trying to cover it all up, and they're actually taking out the survivors as well.
Oh yeah. Science people.
Yeah. Big bad science people. The radioactive suits that they didn't even really need to be wearing, because it's not like the dinosaurs were radioactive, but whatever. Just shooting
unless
everybody.
we missed that too.
Yeah.
Huh?
I said unless we missed that part too.
Yeah.
People were getting sick, so maybe they were trying to not get sick or something.
Maybe. Or maybe they explain it in the 2 sequels. Because there's 2 sequels.
Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible.
Yeah.
I think that's one to add if we ever do the sequels episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
We gotta watch the
Definitely.
sequels to Carnosaur. It's a Roger Corman production. And Roger Corman was known for being somebody who shot films really, really fast, often within the span of a week, sometimes less, sometimes over a couple days, basically with no money, with almost no script. I mean, the remarkable thing about him as a filmmaker was that most of his movies were actually not bad, considering how cheaply made most of them were. And I mean, there were some good actors that came from Roger Corman movies. I mean, Jack Nicholson was in the original Little Shop of Horrors, not the musical, but the one that was made before that. And so this is another entry in the Roger Corman catalog, which also includes movies like Slumber Party Massacre and Piranha.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's not much to say about it.
Again, yeah.
Because they don't explain anything. Just dinosaurs start murdering people.
Yeah. And it ain't pretty. So.
I just wrote down this is like Jurassic Park meets Alien, because they're having just dinosaurs pop out of people's stomachs and shit.
Pretty
I
much.
was like, Jesus.
Like, picture Jurassic Park and Alien, and then picture both of those movies being made for about 1/3 of the budget. Picture the sets being dwindled down to about 3 set pieces total. And have it be about 80 minutes, and have the script pretty much be nothing but the greatest hits of both movies, and you pretty much have Carnosaur.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. None of the characters say anything or do anything that's super interesting. in fact, I'd actually go so far as to say that the dinosaurs are pretty much the only likable characters, if you can even call them characters. They have about maybe 45 seconds of screen time total. The puppetry is
Bad.
really, really poor.
You could tell it's just some guy with a puppet.
Yeah. And there's a lot of there's definitely like a lot of close-ups of the rubber dinosaurs. Most of the close-ups are pretty brief shots, but the shots last just long enough for you to be able to tell that it's definitely rubber. There's a little bit of stop motion, a little bit. They get a little ambitious, with Carnosaur.
Shit, I must have missed that.
Yeah, very briefly. It's maybe about 2 shots worth. It looks like crap. As bad as the movie is, surprisingly it goes by pretty fast.
Yeah.
So it's like a bite-sized movie. It's the equivalent of like a fun-sized candy bar, of a film.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
What would you give it on a scale of 1 to 5?
I'd probably give it like a 2. It was a good watch for as long as it was.
Yeah.
The length. Interesting. Something that isn't Jurassic Park, but dinosaurs, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say I think I would give it a 3 actually, because I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I mean, it was total trash, but I really enjoyed pretty much all the death scenes. I thought that they were all really funny and crazy, and I like the effects, that as bad as they are. It was pure schlock, but I was more or less in the mood for it when I watched it. I was in the mood for
fun.
Yeah, very disposable kind of movie.
Yeah.
But if you're in the mood for something that's disposable, that's kind of fun to have in the background, like during like a Halloween party or something like that, like Carnosaur will definitely deliver the goods, I'd say, in my opinion.
I give it a 2 as well.
Yeah.
Pretty much the only thing I liked about it was the kills.
Yeah. That's about all it's worth.
Yeah. That is basically the best thing about it. Luckily, there is plenty of them, but you're right, though. That is pretty much the best thing about the movie. Is the kill scene. So Carnosaur,
Not bad.
yeah,
Not good. but-
I definitely would be willing to watch the sequels. They're probably worse, but
Yep.
Yeah.
Interested at least.
yeah. Now on to your choice. It's another
Yeah.
90s classic.
So my choice was Surf Ninjas.
Surf Ninja. That's cool.
I definitely seen this movie too.
Oh, yeah.
I think I have too. Like halfway through, I'm like, okay, this is starting to seem familiar.
Yeah.
But there was also an abundance of ninja movies in the 90s, so
Yeah.
I'm still not exactly sure.
Right.
Yeah, I've definitely seen this one before as well, but I didn't remember any. I remember the trailer better than I remember the movie, which by the way, 5 out of 5 for the trailer. That's an amazing trailer, I gotta say. Like, I rewatched that trailer a couple times actually. It's such a dumb trailer, but
I didn't watch it.
it's really memorable. It's basically like it's narrated by this guy who's like, "Hey, you like ninjas or whatever." Like it's hard to describe, but like,
Shit.
and I saw the trailer on the VHS tape for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. I actually did check because I have all 3 of those VHS tapes. And I actually did check the tapes, and it was on the 3rd one. So that mystery is solved, where I saw the trailer. But anyway, so what made you choose this one?
I wanted to take a step away from horror for a bit,
Good idea.
because most of my choices are horror. And there's a lot of goofy comedy from the 90s, so
Yeah. Well, then Surf Ninjas is definitely a goofy comedy.
yeah. So the plot follows these two adopted kids who surf. Like, I guess there was like one scene of surfing.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically.
They're not really surfers. They're just. I kind of got the impression that surfing was more of like a fun pastime. Like it's something they kind of did maybe here and there, but not really on a regular basis. Like I didn't get the impression that they entered like any surfing competitions or anything like that. So.
Yeah. And their best friend is Rob Schneider.
Oh yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah.
When I saw his name come up on the credits.
Yeah. And plot-wise, he contributes 0.
Yeah.
No, he's just the comic relief
Yep.
Yeah.
in a movie that's already a comedy.
Yeah. Already has plenty of comedy. It doesn't really need any more comic relief.
Right.
But
Like, I couldn't take him seriously as like that age. Like, he just seemed like an adult because all I've seen him in is an adult movie.
How old was he in that movie?
I'll look it up.
Like,
I'm gonna look it up real quick. Let's see.
so I thought he would be way older at that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he was young. I doubt that he was a teenager. He didn't
Yeah.
look like a teenager.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But he was playing one.
Yeah. And he was definitely, I mean, he was talkative like a teenager. He
Yep.
certainly acted like a teenager. But he didn't look like one.
No.
Eddie Reyes Jr., who I mean, he was much more convincing, I'd say.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The Rob Schneider birth year. So okay, so yeah, so as far as plot, Eddie Reyes Jr. and he was in one of the Ninja Turtles movies, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
The second
he's-
one, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, isn't he the one that's like almost goes to the Foot Clan or whatever?
Yes. Yeah, in the second movie, he's the one who, or wait, he doesn't almost go, but he like he puts on the Foot Clan disguise, I think is what happens.
Yeah.
If memory serves. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen Ninja Turtles 2 actually, but I think that's what happens. The main thing I remember about Ninja Turtles 2 is Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
So, so Rob Schneider was born in 1963. What year was this movie made?
Ooh. Yeah, 92 or something.
So that would mean that he'd be like 30.
What the?
Yeah. What?
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh! Like he went up to Vanilla Ice and Cool Ice.
God damn.
It was like this weird 25-year-old driving around on a motorcycle, flirting with this teenage girl. But now you have Rob Schneider, who's 30 years old,
It was
trying to be a teenage surfer.
93.
Oh my god!
So, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
Okay. That
Believable.
explains a little bit.
Yeah.
She didn't look young.
Yeah.
You looked like Rob Schneider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Eddie Reyes Jr. and his brother, it turns out that it's kind of a typical sort of ninja plot, actually, now that I think about it. It's like a prophecy. They both have a destiny.
Yeah.
And it involves, because you have this guy who shows up and is kind of following them. And after I think the second fight, because let me tell you, this movie wastes no time getting to the ninja fights.
Yeah.
He pretty much explains in sort of a odd sort of 5-minute kind of exposition what the origin of these two brothers are, and they come from this.
I must have not been paying attention because I didn't know what was going on
Oh,
throughout the whole movie.
yeah, they
Honestly.
flashback to this ancient sort of magical country, which, as far as I know, doesn't actually exist. I don't think it does. It's this eastern country, and Leslie Nelson is this crazy.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Leslie Nelson is in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he plays this warlord who pretty much takes over this kingdom and takes captive the people in it, and it's the destiny of these two brothers, not Rob Schneider, as much as Rob Schneider wants to be involved,
Right.
and desperately tries really, really hard to be involved in this plot, to the point where he's in a state of denial about being related to these guys. I mean, he so wants to be important, and he's kind of a tragic. He's actually kind of a sad character, because he doesn't do anything in the movie. He contributes almost nothing. He pretty much throws a lot of really strange punchlines out, which happen too fast for the viewer to even really absorb. And then the movie ends, and the most he does is he learns how to surf.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Good for him.
yeah, right near the end. There's a lot that happens in this movie, which is strange because there's not much plot to really speak of. But eventually, after a series of various little fight scenarios, they actually travel to this country, and they set the captive villagers free. And then after that, the movie's pretty much over. Basically, they blow up all the bad guys with dynamite, which isn't really something that ninjas would do. They probably shuriken them or something, but instead they blow them up with dynamite. And
I was confused because I thought the movie was ending,
yeah,
and then I looked and it's like, oh wait, there's like a half an hour left still. What the hell?
yeah, they still have to take out Leslie Nelson's character. Let's see, the little brother, he pretty much, doesn't really do too much other than he plays Game Gear.
Which I'm
Yeah.
confused about. Like that Game Gear was making stuff happen in the real world.
Yeah.
Like what the hell?
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
Which, by the way, I have the Surf Ninjas Game Gear game right here.
Nice.
shit. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. Have you played it?
No, I don't have a Game Gear.
Nice.
I once got a Game Gear from a thrift store.
Yeah,
and
I had one.
yeah.
At one point. But the batteries lasted like 2 hours.
Yeah, that's the main problem with the Game Gear. Is like the concept of the Game Gear was cool. I thought what they were trying to do with it was interesting, and it was ambitious to have like a 2-paddle kind of system as opposed to Game Gear where it's like a small screen and you're kind of left with sort of some basic commands and with the small device. But the Game Gear was like a heavy duty. It was kind of heavy. It had more buttons on it, and you had to hold it with 2 hands.
No, yeah.
And and the screen was bigger. It was in color, but the batteries lasted like 2 hours if you're lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, I beat Jurassic Park on Game Gear because that was like one of 2 games that I got for it. The other was Power Rangers, which it was a piece of crap. I could barely even get through it. But Jurassic Park, I beat. But it was over the course of several different playthroughs because the battery kept on running out. Like, so I had to stop playing, recharge the batteries, and then play it again. But then I think eventually that Game Gear device just ended up dying, or just one time it just stopped working, which is fine.
They didn't work that well.
Yeah.
Like I've had 2 Game Gears that I've tried this game in. They both didn't work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Well, if you ever get around to playing Surf Ninjas, let us know how it is.
I will. I hope it's exactly the way he plays it in the game
Right.
or
That
the
would
movie.
That would be dope. Actually, it actually looked all right in the movie, which kind of makes me suspect that the Game Gear game the actual Game Gear game is probably not quite as good as the way it makes it look in the movie. I sort of suspect that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of a weird aspect of it. Like as the plot was going on, the kid was playing the Game Gear game, and at one point he's even controlling what's happening. Like he's controlling Leslie Nelson's arms,
Yeah.
making him
What
punch
the fuck is
himself.
that? Yeah, I didn't get it.
Yeah. So maybe the kid just had magical powers. I don't know. He mostly just he was funnier than Rob Schneider, in my opinion. He had funnier things to say.
Yeah.
And maybe that had to do with his precociousness. I don't know, but he was certainly a more interesting character, and I like that he actually did stuff. He actually surfed.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, they teach the villagers how to surf, which I guess the villagers were ninjas as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Movie wasn't really any good, but I like the fight scenes a lot. And I actually have to say, even though there wasn't as much surfing footage in this movie as there was in Surf Nazis Must Die, I thought that the surfing footage in this movie was actually a lot better than it was in Surf Nazis Must Die, which maybe it had to do with, I mean, I don't know, maybe the people who were surfing in this movie were better at surfing. I couldn't really quite tell. I could tell that they weren't real surfers, but that they knew how to surf at least. But then also they probably had a bigger budget with this movie, so they probably had better camera equipment to work with, better technical abilities to film the surfing sequences.
Yeah.
So, and then the martial arts sequences, which it's a kids movie, so you can only expect so much. But for a kids movie, the fight scenes were pretty decent, pretty well choreographed. I'd say about on par with Ninja Turtles 2. I think Eddie Reyes Jr. Definitely knew what he was doing with his physicality and with his actual ability to gain the upper hand. It wasn't the kind of thing where it was like a bunch of bad guys waiting in line to get beaten up. It was really, they kept it mostly one-on-one. And a lot of times it was pretty fast, and the sound design was all right in those scenes. Plot wise, the movie's a mess. You could tell they didn't really quite know what they were doing with it. They pretty much were trying to just sort of structure it around the fight scenes. And it worked sort of, but not really.
And why was Leslie Nielsen the guy in this foreign country? You got this white guy who can't answer the phone in time.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He doesn't really make a good villain if he can't answer the phone.
That was a stupid joke, but I laughed almost every time.
Yeah. There was also sort of there was a musical number too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was horrible. Oh my god. I felt really bad for Eddie Reyes Jr.
Yeah. That's how they end the movie.
Yeah. That was pretty tragic. That was a really kind of depressing way to end a movie that was otherwise, kind of upbeat. Yeah. Is there any observations you made about it?
None that stood out.
Yeah.
I mean, I just was blown away by Rob Schneider's character mostly.
Yeah. And just how out of place he looked.
Yep.
Like he looked even more out of place than Martin Short did in Clifford. With this horrible wig. Yeah, Rob Schneider doesn't even have a wig, and this time he just wears a bandana. And, but I'd say Rob Schneider, performance-wise, does okay. His character is pretty obnoxious, but he at least does a decent job playing this obnoxious character. I mean, that's kind of Rob Schneider's strong suit, is playing obnoxious characters.
Mm-hmm.
So
He's good at it.
Yeah. So that role was definitely suited for him. And that's about all I have to say about these surf ninjas.
Yeah.
Yep.
There wasn't much to it.
Yeah. Did you guys notice though that? And by the way, I'll just admit right now that I did watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Too.
It didn't seem to be available on any kind of streaming services. But did you guys notice that on YouTube, and maybe this is just the YouTube version, but at one point the music cut out, like the music soundtrack cut out. So I don't know, like maybe there's like rights issues or something, but it's YouTube,
Maybe.
so I don't know. Yeah, maybe I was just the only one who noticed that. But did either of you notice that?
I didn't notice it, but
I think so. Like it was towards the end.
Yeah, it was like sure. It was during the It was like right. It was right when they got on the island. There was a part where like the boy tumbles down the hill, and then there was like
Yeah.
another part. Yeah, didn't the audio seem kind of like it felt like the music was like removed or something.
Yeah, something was off.
Yeah, that was very strange. But I don't know. I wasn't gonna go hunt the movie down on VHS tape, though. I mean, I just didn't have time.
no.
So,
Nope.
oops.
Oh well.
Yeah. Um, I, well, okay. What would you give it on a scale of 1 to 5?
I gave it a 3.
Yeah.
Just because of the whole 90s ninja craze.
Yeah.
Just brings me back.
Yeah. Actually, it kind of that's about what I would give it to. I'd give it a 3 as well. Mainly because I actually really did enjoy the fight scenes. And the surfing scenes. But also, yeah, the nostalgia of it. Even though I mean, I could say Kazam was nostalgic. But I enjoyed this more than Kazam, just for the simple fact that it wasn't about Shaquille O'Neal being a genie. It was about ninjas, and it played up the ninja novelty of it about as much as it could. It probably wasn't as good as Three Ninjas, but I liked it.
Yeah, I'd give it a 3 as well. It was entertaining, at least,
Yeah.
more so than the other ones.
Yeah. It was also fairly short. It felt
Yeah.
like another kind of concise type ninja plot.
Yep.
The little plot that it had was sufficient, I guess, for a ninja movie. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I'd say out of the 3 movies, I think I like Carnosaur just a little bit more. Just because when I watched Carnosaur, I was more in the mood for what that movie offered than I was when I watched Surf Ninjas. And as much as I loved Surf Ninjas, or not loved, but as much as I enjoyed Surf Ninjas, I'd probably sooner watch Carnosaur again, probably. And then The Vagrant was just freaking weird. So
Yeah. I'd probably say the same and recommend Carnosaur out of the 3.
yeah,
I think I like the Vagrant out of the 3 the most.
that's cool.
Nice.
I like that.
Yeah. Like, it was creepy, but it wasn't supposed to be, and I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I feel like there's definitely an audience for like awkward, uncomfortable types of movies that may not necessarily click with most people. But yeah, if you're in the mood for like a movie that'll make you feel really dirty for watching, The Vagrant will definitely do that.
Yeah.
You know, so so picks for next time. So again, we're going with the 90s theme. I'll just go with my pick first, I suppose. I chose a movie called Mind Warp. Yeah, which I believe it's a science fiction film. It looked like one. And the reason I chose it, well, aside from the fact that it looked interesting, was it has Bruce Campbell, and it has Angus Scrimm, and those are both 2 pretty reliable type actors that have been in a lot of, you know, cheesy type of B movies. And so yeah, for me, Mind Warp, that sounds like a promising one. So that's my choice.
I've heard of that one, haven't seen it.
Yeah. I'm curious. I'm curious to check that one out.
Okay. I am gonna choose Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Know that one?
I've heard the title. I've never seen the movie, but I'll
think
happily
I've
watch it.
I think I've seen it, but I'm not exactly sure.
Yep. It's a Stallone movie.
Oh, excellent! I can't wait. All right.
All right. I have two options. Should I do horror or comedy?
Oh.
I wasn't sure.
All right. I'd say let's do the horror because mine is a science fiction film. Yours is
I think it's
I'm guessing a comedy.
yeah, comedy action.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if it weren't a comedy. Watch it be like some kind of like weird thriller.
All right,
As long as it's not a musical.
the horror choice I had was Ticks.
All right. Ticks.
Killer Ticks movie. Seth Green's in it.
Oh,
I'm on board.
sounds good.
Yeah. All right, yeah. And then next time you want to do the comedy?
Sure.
All right, excellent.
It's a bad one.
Oh, is it? You want to say what it is or no?
Sure. Chairman of the board with Carrot Top.
Oh, I was thinking about that one actually.
Sweet.
That was the other one I was thinking of.
Chairman of the board. Oh man. Should we try to squeeze that one into this one, or do you want to save that for next time?
We
I don't
can
know, what do
save
you-
it.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
save it
Yeah.
probably.
It might be too much, yeah. You already got the Stallones.
Got these three, and then trying to get caught up for the Oscar thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
right,
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's gonna be. All right. Well, yeah. I think. Yeah. I think. All right. So stop if my mom stop, or my mom will shoot. Ticks, and Mind Warp. All right. So those will be our three choices. Looking
Right.
forward to that. All right. Well, do either you have anything more to say, or any other thoughts?
I
That
don't think
covers-
so.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, salutations, peace, good night, goodbye, and good luck.
Good evening.
Oh, and like and subscribe too.
Yeah, do that.
All right. Goodbye.